My husband cheated with my son's 18-year-old girlfriend, and I was shocked to discover all of his dirty secrets. I'm 41, married 20 years to Paul, 48. We have Eric, 18, and Mary, 15. Eric's been dating Amy since freshman year. She's his first love, and honestly, I always saw her as family. She'd come over for dinner every week, help me cook, laugh at my jokes. I trusted her completely. A text from Amy saying she misses eating his sausage. I froze in place, completely paralyzed. Spent the entire day convincing myself I'd misread it, that my eyes were playing tricks on me, but I hadn't misread anything. Over the next several days, I became obsessed with finding proof. I waited until Paul was in the shower and went through his computer. That's when I found a folder buried deep in his files, filled with BDSM porn. Hours and hours of it. He clearly had an addiction. But that wasn't the worst part. He also had saved photos of Amy from her Instagram. They weren't inappropriate. She was fully clothed in all of them. But the fact that he'd saved them separately was proof enough. I wasn't going crazy. I started checking his phone during opportune moments, when he'd leave it on the counter to grab something from the garage, when he was outside mowing the lawn. Each time I looked, I found more messages between them. The messages were cruel in ways I never expected. They didn't just talk about their affair. They mocked me constantly. Paul called me fat and old. Amy replied with strings of laughing emojis, like it was the funniest joke she'd ever heard. One exchange made my stomach turn. Paul wrote, "Can you believe she tried to wear that dress last night? Looked like a sausage bursting its casing." Amy added, "She's so old she probably thinks it's still in style." I remembered that dress. I'd felt beautiful in it that night. They joked about my intelligence, my interests, the way I talked. Words like boring, dull, and predictable. They were used constantly to describe me. Paul wrote, "At least you're fun. Being with her is like living in slow motion." Amy replied, "LOL, you need someone who can keep up with you, not slow you down." I felt myself getting smaller with every message I read. These weren't just idle comments. This was a window into how little I meant to the person who was supposed to love me most. And Amy, a girl I'd mentored and welcomed into our home, was laughing along with him. Then I started connecting other dots. About a month ago, I found a thong in our bedroom that wasn't mine. It definitely wasn't Mary's either. I turned a blind eye to it, convincing myself it somehow belonged to her, even though that made zero sense. Now it all made perfect, horrifying sense. I started noticing Paul's behavior had changed specifically around the time Amy turned 18. She's been 18 for 5 months now. Before that, he'd been normal around her, friendly, but appropriate. But something shifted right after her birthday. He started finding excuses to be in the same room as her, started texting her directly about random things instead of going through Eric. Was he waiting for her to be legal? Had he been planning this for months, maybe years? The thought made me physically sick. I couldn't eat for 2 days straight. I've always had paranoid feelings that Paul was cheating on me, but I never imagined something like this. Not with our son's girlfriend. Not with a girl who's been coming to our house since she was 14 years old. I'm completely devastated. The dread, the anger, the shock, I can't even put it into words. I'm overwhelmed because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what this will do to Eric psychologically. He adores Amy. She's his first love. How do I tell him that his father betrayed him in the worst possible way? I kept going back and forth on whether to confront Paul first or tell Eric first. I knew either way would trigger a domino effect I couldn't control. My hands were shaking as I finally made the decision. I picked up my daughter from school early, told her we needed to talk. Then I drove to Eric's school and pulled him out of class. When I told him everything in my brother's living room, Eric stared at me for 10 seconds, his face completely blank, then asked if I was joking. I wasn't.